Hello, I'm Jonasz Lewiński and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Don't ask America what it can do for our own security. Ask yourselves what we can do for our own security. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk told MEPs during a debate on the goals and objectives of the Polish presidency of the European Union. In his words, party's over, and Europe must do some soul-searching to reclaim its position as a global player in terms of security and defense. With an unpredictable US president on one side and an openly hostile and untrustworthy Russia on the other, can Europe navigate murky waters and make up for the errors of past decades? Joining us now is Mateusz Kacperski, resident fellow at the Casimir Pulaski Foundation. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So let's quickly make a reference to what Donald Tusk said. Do you think that Donald Trump is a friend of Europe? Donald Tusk basically suggested that a friend would never ask you to become more powerful, would never ask you to become less powerful. Donald Trump said you need to become more powerful, and this is an indication of his intentions. But is it really the case?
Right. What I think is happening is President Trump is being a friend of his business. His primary motivation is the economic implications of his policies, right? So he's going to be a friend of Europe as long as this is a beneficial investment in the European community, right? That's what I'm thinking. And obviously, we have a situation in which, for example, Poland is a great economic partner for the US. So there are countries within the European Union which can count for the United States being their friend, but until the point where the economic benefits for the United States are there.
So do you think that this is all part of so-called Trump whispering? Or is Europe really having a change of heart, having realized that we're going to have to live with Trump and it may actually hold certain advantages in the long run?
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking myself. I think that the Trump administration is simply speeding up a process of what's been called before unmooring the American military power, right? What we're observing is just a radical, dramatic movement towards this unmooring, which would have happened anyway. That's what I believe.
But would you say that some taboos are not meant to be broken? When Trump initially said, before even finishing the campaign, that there are countries in Europe which are not paying, and in this case, he would not care if Russia actually attacked these countries. This has broken a certain unspoken rule, right? Do you think that the implications of that could still be problematic today?
Certainly. I think because this is Trump's second term, because he's able to do much more. I assume he's not counting for a third term. The politics which Trump...
It's not even viable in terms of constitutional regulation.
Well, we know that might not be 100% probability that the rule of law is there. But what I think will happen, especially with Ukraine over the next 6 months, will be crucial for the European Union and European security. Obviously, we're in a situation in which Donald Trump might be forcing Ukraine to accept a ceasefire on unbeneficial terms, which is going to have a big impact on the European community. And it's important to mention the Polish presidency in this context, right? The next 6 months in which foreign policy goal of Donald Trump is going to be dealing with the ceasefire in Ukraine. Whether that's successful or not is a different question, but that's going to be his primary goal. And Poland, as the leader of the European presidency, needs to be prepared for different scenarios of what the ceasefire might look like. What do we want to do next? What the next thing after the ceasefire is going to be, for example, Poland leading leading an initiative of sending troops on the ground to Ukraine, a stabilizing unit, for example. And
even 200,000. This is what President Zelensky said. Do you think that Europe is ready for such a commitment?
I think Europe is not ready, but there is a lot of potential in that department. Here we can discuss the human potential, the human capital, which might not be the greatest dealing with the demographic issues in Europe, but we have the defense industry's potential as well, which was something that was mentioned by Kaja Kallas, which was mentioned by Commissioner Kubilius, which was mentioned by near everyone, that there is potential in the European defense industry but there needs to be a clear strategy in the way that the wealth, the economic cooperation is shared by all the members of this European community, right? Let me give you a few examples. There's a lot of interesting projects going on in the defense industry, and one of them is the 2020 project regarding the next generation main battle tank, which has been developed by Germany and France, right? And this is obviously we're speaking of the two main economic powers in Europe, probably military as well, who have been dealing with this technological project, but weren't very willing to let other people, other countries on that project, right? And here's an example of the two main powers kind of sidelining the different countries outside of the center of the European Union, such as Italy, such as Spain, in that context.
So we seem to have some issue with the lightning in our studio, but let the darkness not deter us from moving on to the next question.
Hopefully it's not a
yes,
metaphor.
Specifically. Oh, there you go. It's back up again. So anyway, would you say that Europe really does, as you said, have potential, but it is not capable of using it? Donald Tusk has indicated that the only thing we have to do is believe in it, believe in this potential, but also overcome certain difficulties, right? Because following the end of the Cold War, Europe has, to a large extent, allowed its military and industrial base to atrophy.
Yeah, agreed.
Do we still have the time to get out of this state?
It won't happen tomorrow, but it can happen within 3 years. That's a timeline which seems reasonable, but it's not enough to believe in this. It's simple as investing enough money into these projects, right? It's not enough to say that we have the moral right. It's not enough to say that we believe that the defense industry should look in a different way. It needs the capital in that. And it's no criticism of the Donald Tusk government, because they've been the ones who have recapitalized the Polish armaments group, who have invested in new industrial facilities, which are gonna, in the future, within the next few years, be key for the production of Polish infantry fighting vehicles or any other kind of defense armaments.
So Poland is really almost there when it comes to the 5% threshold proposed by Donald Trump and actually endorsed by Donald Tusk during his speech.
Right.
But other countries, not quite. Do you think that this 5-year timeline that was indicated by some, including by Mark Rutte, is achievable? They said within 5 years we could be facing a belligerent Russia on our doorstep in one way or another.
Right. Regarding the GDP investment in NATO, obviously for some countries in Europe, it's absolutely impossible to get to even a 3% GDP right now investment in defense. One of those countries is Germany. It won't seem like Germany is capable in the economic situation in which this country is now situated, that they will be able to raise their GDP investment to 3%. Currently, it's below 2%. Well, but let's just mention that less than 2% for Germany is 3 times more than the Polish defense
Of course
budget,
it is.
right?
Is it just because of the economy, though? Wouldn't you say that it's also because of the culture? Because of the fact that Germany has traditionally, since the tragedy of World War II, been rather reluctant to exhibit any sort of militarization, and this has become ingrained in the psyche of the political elites.
Perhaps you're right. Obviously, we'll need to see what happens with the next German government. This is going to be key for the future of Europe. Whether the AfD wins the next election, whether it will be able to form a coalition with the Christian Democrats, for example. We will be dealing with an even less interested Germany in the matters of support for Ukraine or the support for investment in NATO. Currently, it's not great. It's probably, in terms of advice for the Polish government, I'd say it's better to cooperate with France, which, even though there is political instability in France as well, is a country which historically and contemporary seems like a greater partner in the defense industry cooperation.
So naturally, this cooperation is all-encompassing. We, for example, have Germany providing air defense systems to Poland as part of the NATO operations. Right. But we were actually showing these systems a moment ago in the background. But let's actually consider one more thing. Specifically, would you say that you've mentioned instability, that Russia may try to capitalize on that and try to undermine our unity in our efforts at bolstering the defense industry through, for example, election interference or disinformation campaigns, for example, trying to boost anti-war movements in a number of countries, especially in the West, and making it a very unpopular thing among parts of society to invest in the military, despite the threats which exist.
You're right, and contributing to what you've just said, we're dealing also with the kind of election interference from the United States, which we've never witnessed before, right? We have Elon Musk, who's openly supporting different parties in Europe, who's openly voicing opinions on the Reform Party in the UK or the AfD in Germany. And we might witness in this year the type of influence on European elections through social media, through the American government, which we've never seen before. And obviously, it's not as great of a threat as any type of disinformation or hybrid warfare done by Russia or Belarus towards the European Union. But it's worth mentioning that there is this new kind of threat.
So overall, it is a difficult environment to navigate. Mateusz Kacperski was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your expertise.
I appreciate the time. Thank you.
And I'm Jonasz Rewiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.